Hey guys, welcome to my character preview of Ruan May. So this character has been she's been the topic of a lot of hype for the community. I expected, I'm expecting her banner sales to be absolutely crazy, and she's actually a character that has a lot of build versatility, and aside from her buffs, which are crazy, she can unlock a lot of comps. So I highly recommend you guys to pull for her. But we're going to go over what she does exactly, and I'll try to keep things as simple as possible for new players. So, the archetype for Wanmei is kind of like a bard, you know? If you think of bards, they're mostly characters that buff your allies, but they don't actually deal damage in most scenarios. But however, Wanmei is going to be able to actually deal quite a significant amount of damage. And all that damage is based purely on her break damage, okay? So, in terms of buffs, she's going to buff break efficiency, not break, weakness break amount, right? This is break efficiency. Speed and all-type res pen. This all-type res pen buff here is actually it's a fantastic buff. Because it's quite a unique buff. And I think Gotcha Smack already talked about this buff, but whatever the amount it's telling you, for example, 10%, the buff is actually contributing a lot more in terms of your damage bonus, right? So a 10% all-type res band is probably contributing 15 or 20% of your damage bonus. And, there's a lot to go over why that is, and it has to do with the way the game is actually it's actually like developed resistance, which is it's really crazy. But anyways, that's it. I'm gonna leave it there. But this buff is actually very unique, and the value that you get out of this buff is a lot more than damage percent, which has diminishing returns, right? At the same time, Ranmei can also deal additional break damage whenever an ally weakness breaks an enemy, causing the weakness broken enemy's action to be further delayed. This is a fantastic part of her kit because in certain comps, she's going to actually be able to stall the enemy to a point where you're not going to need a sustainer. Now, this is a theory that we have right now, and I hope it turns out to be true, because this will be like Welt 2.0, okay? Except it's a lot more reliable. It's not based on his ultimate. This buff will theoretically be always up, okay? Next, her traces. Here she's going to buff weakness break effect for all allies. This is going to be a moderate amount of weakness break. And then right here, she's going to regenerate energy at the start of her turn. This is a great trace because it kind of balances out her rotation. Again, I'm not going to talk too much into it because that would be spoilers. And then Candlelights on Still Waters. In battle, when Wanmei break effect is greater than a certain percentage, every percent that exceeds that percentage will allow her skill to additionally increase her ally's damage up to a certain amount. So this is the damage percent bonus that she gives on her kit, and this one is tied to her skill. So aside from the rest pen, she's actually giving you damage percent as well, which is really great. And then here's her trace and ascension. Okay, I'm going to cover the technique real quick. The technique is like Tingyun, right? She gets a buff, and then when an ally acts, right, inflicting weakness break on an enemy, she will actually do weakness break as well with them. So think of Silverwolf. If Silverwolf is able to get her weakness break effect to break an enemy, that enemy will receive extra break damage. So this is going to be great for clearing out trash mobs. And yeah. And on top of this, the part of the skill is when Ruan Mei, the first part of the skill is like, when Ruan Mei enters battle, Ruan Mei will cast her skill, and then she'll get energy for that skill before anybody acts, right? And then Ruan Mei will have another turn, okay? And this skill cast doesn't actually consume skill points. It'll just grant her free energy. So this character will start every fight. She'll start every fight with a skill cast, okay? I don't know how this works between waves, but I'm assuming right now it only triggers during the start of battle, okay? Now she has her single attack. And then this is her talent. So her talent is pretty good. It'll increase speed for the team. It's a moderate speed buff, you know, by a certain amount. When allies break an enemy target weakness, Ruan Mei deals break damage based on her ice break damage to the target. That's the flower effect right there. So this is great. It'll boost break damage, or it'll deal another instance of break damage, and it will boost ally speed. In certain scenarios, you can switch out a speed boots for your main DPS here. You can still hit the 135 speed mark with speed substats with this talent. So this is a really freaking good talent, okay? Or you can just keep the speed boots and maybe try to hit another speed threshold in certain scenarios. Depends on the comp you run. And then her skill. Right, so her skill will give overtone buff. This buff will last a limited number of turns. Okay, I say limited because, you know, it's limited, you know. And the duration of this will actually be based on Ruan Mei's turn, okay? Rather than the ally's turn. And I don't think a lot of people are talking about this. This is like... So, this is bordering on, like... It's not quite as good as a debuff, right? Because Ruan Mei is still going to be acting. But it's better than a straight up buff on an ally. Especially when an ally acts more than once. Okay? So, for speedier teammates, this is pretty good. And then, let's see, break efficiency. And it actually increases allies' damage. So aside from her talent, she's actually going to be double tipping on that damage bonus, which is crazy. And then with her ultimate, she's going to create a field, lasts for a certain number of turns. And that field will give all-type rest pen. So this rest pen buff is actually pretty unique, like I already talked about. Anyways, the other part of this is the actual turn delay, right? This is what this other part's about, the turn delay. You get the rest pen buff, and then at any point when an ally attacks a target, they will give the debuff to them. The debuff will only actually work when the enemy is weakness broken. Okay, so at any point after inflicting this debuff on an enemy, when they are weakness broken, it will act as a delay. I believe that's how it works. We're gonna have to see when it works, when we test it. All right, but the all-type rest pen buff will be essential. I think it's probably the best buff in her kit. Now here's my idea for a build. My Yukon, she is gonna be holding up all the stats for her. So, okay. Where are you? There we go. Okay. So, right now my Yukong is on a traditional build for her, which is her light gun. Another good light gun that people use is, what is it called? Yeah, meshing cogs, right? After it uses attack, additionally regenerates for energy. This effect cannot be repeatedly triggered in a single turn. If you superimpose this, well, actually I have one superimposed right here. It's 8 energy per hit. So this is pretty good. Is it necessary? No, it's not even the best if you have S5, what is it called? The one that I have. This one. If you have S5 of this, it's going to be better because you're going to get that additional break effect. Memories of past. There are other options. Let me talk about the other options. Dance, Dance, Dance. It's good, not great. And Planetary Rendezvous for like Jinglu comp with Pella. Great. That's what you're planning on using her for. Is it better than this one? Yeah, it is. Because you can get this from somewhere else. And I don't think this is actually necessary. Depending on some builds, okay? So I'm going to talk about first the traditional build. You have... This is the most accepted one, right? It's on my Bayou. And it is a Thief set. 4-piece Thief. With Talia, okay? You get the it's the 4-piece Thief, right? This is the break effect portion of her kit. It'll help her there. And then you run speed substats, break effect substats. And for the body, you're always going to need a defensive option because you're not going to get any value from attack percent or crit. And speed boots, right? So the good thing about this is the break effect. It will help you get up to the threshold that she needs, and with the speed boots, you're gonna have enough speed to keep up with her rotation, right? And then with the orb, a defensive orb, and people are using actually not a break effect rope, but energy recharge. That has to do with her rotation. Okay. I, however, think that there's another build that is better than Messenger, right? Because if you think about this speed buff right here, it's only going to act for 1 turn. It's not going to be that useful. It's going to have really limited uptime for this speed buff. But, yeah, I mean, if you want to run it, you can. However, I think speed for her actually has counter synergy to her kit. Because there are certain scenarios where you're running a DPS that actually needs to be faster than you. You're running with the speed for the 4-piece set, you can run Talia, right? To get that break effect. This break effect value is greater than the 4-piece Thief. But the 4-piece Thief is probably going to be better. And because for your planar sphere and link rope, whatever, for these you can actually run energy recharge, right? So you can run Pinaconi. For Jinglu, that's going to be great, right? An additional 10% buff. However, I actually have a different way to build her. And that way actually, I came across it after thinking a little bit about what she's supposed to do. the most important part of her kit is buff uptime, right? And how is she going to maintain buff uptime? A, have her rotation be insanely good, or B, have your allies be insanely speedy so that they can take more turns of her buff than normal. Does that make sense? So, like, imagine you have Kafka, right? Here's my Kafka. This is my Kafka. She has 138 speed. Great. My Kafka is going to be able to go 2 turns at the beginning of the fight. Let's just consider the beginning of the fight, right? Say, in the best case scenario, where'd she go? In the best case scenario, Yukong or Ruan Mei will be able to use her talent, or her technique, right, to cast her skill, and then cast her skill again, or basic attack again. This will give her her ultimate. She'll use her ultimate, right? And then, depending on her speed, does that buff start to tick off, okay? So you see where I'm talking about speed having counter synergy with her kit? If you can get your Kafka with a speed that is so if you're able to get like 2 turns on the first turn and then another 2 turns on the second turn, I think you're gonna need like something around 145 or 160 speed on Kafka, which is doable, right? With just base form Ruan Mei, Kafka will be able to take 4 turns instead of 3 with Ruan Mei's ultimate, okay? And you can actually keep the speed substats on your characters, and keep it on your boots. And her talent will actually make these characters have make the characters with more speed gain a bigger advantage from that speed. Okay, so I don't think the best way to build her is actually with speed. What I recommend for people is this, okay? This is a build not a lot of people are talking about. Here. Run break effect. Fantastic, right? Run break effect. Here's my break effect pieces. But try not to have any speed substats on them, okay? I know it's pretty counterintuitive because a lot of people are saying break effect and speed are the best for her. If you want to stretch her ultimate buff uptime, this is pretty experimental, right? But if you want to stretch her ultimate buff uptime, you're going to not need to run speed on her. Instead, focus on break effect, and your characters will just have way more turns with that ultimate buff up, okay? So yeah, this is the alternate build that I'm going to go with. Thief, and to make it actually work, right, you use Sprightly Von Whack, right? Sprightly Von Whack with the energy regeneration rate by 5%, and then the rope. Okay? So this is an alternative build that I'm planning on using for her, and I think it'll actually work better than the build that most people are using, specifically for this. But actually, if you think about it, most fights, all you really care about is keeping that ult, keeping her buff up, and those buffs will just be up at the beginning of the turn. So I think she'll only need a little bit of speed, just so she can guarantee to go first with Sprightly Von Whack. Anyways, those are my ideas, those are my thoughts. Let me know if you guys agree in the the comments. I'm going to try it out tomorrow when she drops. I have a lot saved up for her and for, what's her name? And for the quantum character again, Jouei, right? For her and Jouei, I'm planning on C6ing Jouei if I got lucky. Yeah, I'll let you guys know if the build works or if the traditional builds are better. Subscribe if you liked my video. Sorry if it's a bit long. I'll try to. I probably already tried to edit it as much as I could. Yeah, I'll try to condense my thoughts a little bit more next time. See you guys. Bye.